Okay, welcome to All the Talk with your host, Greg Arcust. This is episode 1 today. I hope one of many. And my first guest today is a coach, and I like a lot that we met when he arrived in Canada. He's from Europe. His name is Mark. And Mark, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit, and I'm going to move on.
Cheers, Greg. So I'm Mark McGrann. I came to Canada for a coaching job with China in BC. It was January 2014. And I actually think that you were probably one of the first coaches that I met outside of BC. I think Patrick and myself were at a national meet, and I forget if it was, it must have been maybe it was trials or senior champs. And we met on the pool deck the day before the meet started, and I think after 10 minutes, I knew pretty much everything about you. So,
you are. I wanted to tell you that during the show, but you are one of the coaches that, and I'm pretty sure that it happens to a lot of us, a lot of coaches on the deck. We travel a lot, we meet a lot of people, a lot of different coaches, and some people sometimes are very, very interesting, and we connecting with them. But because of the job and because of how fast our stuff, we really don't have the time to be able to share more and stuff. And I will say that you are one of the coaches that I will be pleased to be to spend a little bit more time with you and exchange more, because each time that we met, each time that we have the opportunity to exchange, it's always fun, and we always have a good time.
It is good, especially with like a country as big as Canada, like coming from Ireland, where you go to a competition and you pretty much get to meet every single coach in the entire country. But in Canada, I might only get the chance to come out to a competition a couple of times a year, where I get to see you and some of your colleagues and some of the coaches from back then it was from the east side of the country. So when we do meet up, it's we got to make the most of it.
Okay, so you were talking about your arrival in the country, in China. It started for you there in China in 2014.
Yes. So Vancouver was an amazing location for me to kind of have my first Canadian experience. It's a great city, absolutely stunning, as everyone knows. There's so much going on outside of work, so like really whatever you're into, you can find it, and you don't have to go very far. And it's really just spectacular. The people were really, really nice, and I had an amazing experience. It really was everything I thought it would be. And then about the job, I absolutely loved it as well. It was pretty much instant. So really good people, and I'm glad I had the chance to experience that side of the country.
Yeah, that's very nice. I never coached there. I wish one day, if I have the opportunity, maybe. But it looks pretty nice over there, and I think that the advantage that British Columbia have right now, I mean, swimming. When we are talking about swimming, is very competitive, and a lot of good swimmers there, and bring up the level up, and for sure for all the different level. I mean, for the kids, for the junior one, the senior one, the little age group one. It's always fun to race with some very good competitive swimmer.
I agree. Actually, that was actually one of the things that I noticed when I got there. I actually went to provincial championships the very next morning, but I was really impressed by the quality of the swimming right from the start at age group level, and also like the depth of coaching, like talent. There's just so many great coaches in BC, and as more time in Canada, I got to realize that there was actually great coaches all over the country as well. But that was definitely a real hotbed of coaching talent, and no surprise that the swimmers did really well.
Is for sure Canadian swimming improved a lot in the last few years. We talk about that later on. For you, coming from Ireland and coming to Canada, I'm very curious to know and understand, like, for you, the major difference that you guys, like when we talk about the community of coaches, the different culture, because coming from Europe, for sure there is for sure differences. The athletes, the mentality, even if we are in the Anglo-Saxon country, is probably not the same. And I would talk, if you can talk about a little bit about the administrator, the director, people working around you and who are working around you now, if there is a difference, and as well to go on more the parents, if you had to deal with it back in your country, and if it's the same, because that's a topic that lots of coaches, we talk about it between us, but it's never like official talk about it, or we never bring that topic. So I would like to share some of it with you.
So first thing about the culture. Now, whenever I was in Ireland, even although I lived there and swam there, I stopped swimming when I was about 15, 16. And then I coached there, but it was really like learning my trade, if you like. So a lot of grassroots teaching, coaching, and then working my way up to work with senior swimmers. I would say that the thing that struck me earliest when I moved away from Ireland that I didn't realize when I was there was that when I came to Canada, I realized that I had to explain why I was asking swimmers to do this. So I really appreciate that when I was working at home in Ireland, and I thought it was just like it seemed to be more a case of the coaches kind of give the instruction. We said, okay, this is what we're going to do today, and we're going to do it this way, and then we start. But when I came to Canada, I noticed that I was getting questioned a lot, like, okay, so why are we doing this, and what's the benefits, and why are we doing it this way and not this way, So I just find myself being a little bit more challenged, which is actually probably the best thing could have happened, because then I had to really think about why I was giving the sort of content I was giving, and not just doing it because it was the first thing that came to mind, or it was because it was what I knew. So that was the thing that hit me instantly. And I think it just, in general, like the culture, it's maybe that little bit more curiosity. Maybe swimmers, especially young swimmers, were given a bit more license and scope to like talk and ask questions, and they were encouraged to be curious. And they had always experienced, I think, from adults, that adults had taken the time to also like properly go through things with them. So that was something that was different for me from the start. I don't know if you've kind of find it somewhat similar.
To me, when I arrived in Quebec, it's kind of it's not the same culture. The swimmer are not like the Quebecois athletes. Culture is different than the English culture in the country. But I felt coming from Europe here, like more respect. The coaches are like have a position where you can feel that in the culture where we are, they respect more the coaches. So they expect a lot as well, and I feel like there is more coachability, more maturity from them. But at the same time, when I arrived, I was pretty surprised about the lack of finesse and details in some swimmers. I was expecting more, because it's very different. Europe is more, and that's something that I always talk about with the people I'm working with in Camo or different coaches. I think that in Europe there is more details and finesse in what we bring into the stroke and than in Canada. And I think that recently, in the recent years, if the swimmer are improved, is because a lot of swimmers now are more aware and take more responsibility of it and work more on the little details and trying to improve to swim faster and being effortless. You know what I mean with spending less energy. And and everyone is getting that going on that vibes. And I would say that it's working way better with the woman. It shows in the result, and that's like, I don't have any theory on it, but I will think that Like if you look at all of them, I don't see any bad stroke. I don't see any weird
Yeah.
or default on the stroke. Technically, it's pretty good, but that's where I think the major difference is between Europe and where I come from now. But now it's I see like as well like I told about Canada, it's changing a little bit more. It's moving up because we have athletes. Oh, then we have good athletes
Oh yeah.
and one I would say that once some of them swim really well, they swim really well, and I would like to have a level of good technical swimmer like way higher than what we have now. But I think we're on the right way. The coaches are more and more technical and trying to move up the level of the province. But that's a good challenge for us. But to me, it was the main difference. But I liked a lot the way they respect the coach. And in Europe, in France, for me, it was different. I had to. You have to sell more. You have to. I don't know. It's different. Like it's not like they don't want. They don't want to do it. No, I'm not doing it.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
it.
no, you make a good point. Yeah, great point. Like I think here within the sport and within sport in general, coaches are given, you know, they're given great status, and that not when you mentioned it, it isn't quite the same in Europe. No, I think whenever I meet people that are not involved with sport, even in Canada and Ireland, anywhere in the UK, I still get asked, that's great that you're into swimming. That's really awesome that you're, doing that for the kids. What's your real job? I still get asked that quite a lot. That's a nice hobby you got there. So I think it still hasn't kind of got outside the swimming community or the sporting community, but it definitely, there is a real level of respect for coaching in Canada across, as far as I can see, across all sports, and that's actually really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I knew you were going to bring up technique, by the way, at some point, because whenever I could tell a Greg Arkhurst swimmer, from the other side of the pool. So whenever I usually come to meets, I usually grab a couple of my age group swimmers and say, okay, you got to come meet a guy. Got to come meet this coach, and then we'll watch a couple of his swimmers, because I know that's like, we're all obsessed with technique, but you've got it down to a fine art, especially for
thank you very much. I'm we are swimming at the same level of I think some of level of athletes. We are junior age group coach, a couple of senior athletes on the side. We are talking about you. We are talking about. You bringing your kid on the deck and trying to find and watch some of my swimmer, but
yes,
I would say some of my freestyle swimmer, because as you know, I love freestyle. But I was saying that we are coaching approximately at the same level. We are both doing the same job. You are trying to build your own culture now in Halifax, and that's right. You leading the pack now, and I'm excited to see what is going to come up and come out from this. But yes, I always like the technique, and I was a fan of Popov when I was younger. Everyone was when Popov came up in the 90s. But the reflection, like it wasn't just like trying to swim like Popov. No one can swim like him, I think. But I think when you saw and you can see a swimmer with such a technique and be able to move very effortless, like he was doing, it's a kind of an inspiration for coaches to try to find the same tune
right.
on your athletes. And to me, that was the thing. And then I learned and freestyle, and like you develop your own knowledge about it, and right. Try to work on that. But I think, and at the end, it's a matter of because we believe and we understand technique, but I think what does make the difference, and I will talk more about me on that aspect, but I'm pretty sure you're going to agree, it's when you are passing on the message is something, but when the athlete is able to feel responsible about it, take responsibility, take responsibility and take ownership about everything and every step you are trying to teach. That's where you are winning. And this is where I think I've been lucky with some of my athletes, because I always congratulate them because it's coming from them. I'm trying to find and open the right door, and then when they are connecting, it's quite easy. You want them to be committed. So that's I think that's I always go with that. That's just one in my mind. Like I would say that if there is no passion, if there is no passion in you, you cannot bring the best of anything. And I'm trying to bring that light in them and make them realize that, hey, you are coming here because you love it, you know?
Right.
And if you love it, you do it. When you do stuff that you love, you have to behave like you love it, you know? Yeah, of course. And that's how we do. And the fun part about it is with different athletes is the language, the different words you can bring, the pedagogy, I would say, around those this coaching aspect. So we're talking about you and talking about the difference of culture between Europe and Europe and Canada, and we're talking about the swimmers and the respect the coaches could have toward the swimmers could have toward the coaches and stuff like this. About the coaching community and about some people I'm sure are excited to hear about it, like about the parents and stuff. What do you see?
So yeah, and you mentioned about, you know, how, are there any differences with the boards, you know, first Europe
director
versus which obviously in our sport are their parents, they're members of our clubs, members of our teams, and it's an interesting dynamic. I think for me, because when I was in Ireland, I was assistant coach, assistant head coach to a coach called Richard Gale, a really great head coach. And the dynamic for an assistant head coach was to kind of like, you had your line manager, which in my case was Richard, and then, you know, he was running the program, but yet I was just watching from the outside, almost this kind of line of command, you know, seeing which roles and responsibilities were on Richard and which were on the board, and all the time kind of watching, you know, how those jobs and tasks are shared between these two parties, if you like, and then which tasks they got to kind of come together and work together on. So that I always think that's once that can be identified and defined, you know, things work really, really well. You know, you kind of recognize who should be doing what and what the skill sets are needed for these tasks. And once there's a mutual agreement there, then things work fantastic. And then when I came to Canada and Vancouver with China, it was really similar in terms of the head coach with Patrick, working underneath Patrick, and then, you know, seeing the dynamic with him do his job and then work alongside a board. And I got to say, like, I've found excellent board members everywhere I've been. Like, and I find really, really passionate board members everywhere I've been. Like, I think sometimes coaches, we think that we're just doing all the work and it's kind of all on our shoulders, but it's also important to realize that these people are doing it in their own free time as well. And for the most part, they're putting a serious, like, they're making big sacrifices with whatever they have in their free time to do this job for the club and for us and for our staff and for the swimmers. So I try to remind myself about that. If there's, you know, ever times where, you know, I don't initially agree with a certain, you know, decision or point of view, but when you think about it, you got to put yourself in the other shoe sometimes, and then
you have to have the whole picture. You have to have the whole picture.
You do.
I like that. It's important because around it, and that could be a topic that we could talk about. But to be successful, I mean, in any organization, I mean, you have to understand your role. And you have to understand where you have to put your strength and your will at any time. And if you want to be able to do it, You have to be able to find the right association with everyone, and everyone has to understand his role around you. And coaches have to understand that without the board, without them,
Yes.
unless you own your own team,
Right.
which is great, the dream. But for most of us, it's not the case. And
right.
when you have someone working above you, I mean, you have to. I think the secret is to make them like to put them into your project and make them feel that they're full part of it, and you are working toward it together, and share the success together and share those moments, because they're not there to solve the bullshit and the shitty problems we have in some clubs sometimes.
Right.
They are there as well to share the success of it. And some people are surprisingly sometimes. Here when I arrived, what surprised me was how proud, because they have an identity for the club, they love the club, and how proud they are for the result and stuff like this. So we have to respect that. That I 100% agree with what you said about the coaches community there, and about the coaches community in Ireland. I've never been in England to coach, to lead that experience there. I know that
they would like you there. You'd be a big hit there.
Thank you. But I do think that we do see a lot of coaches from Great Britain coming here now, since John Atkinson has been hired, and all of them are great and bring a special touch. We'll touch a little bit about Ben Titley that I met at some point. But I want to know if the coaching aspect in that culture is how it is. I mean, I do understand that you had a specific role in your organization, but working with all your colleagues, I mean, how competitive it was, how is it big of an association, like you were saying that at most competition, almost all the coaches were there?
Right, yes. So in terms of the coaching community in Ireland, actually, it's because I'm not away from it. I look back on it, really fondly. We all come from towns and villages and cities that are kind of quite close together. So there is that opportunity for a lot of interaction. I think, in my experience, there was actually pretty good collaboration between coaches from different clubs. There's always going to be some coaches who prefer to be a little bit more isolated, and that's how they like to run their program. And they bring their team out every once in a while, and they perform and they do a great job, and they go back kind of to their own environment again. But I really enjoyed the kind of sharing community in Irish swimming. I thought it was pretty healthy, and
smaller.
It was competitive. Yeah, it was really competitive. Of course, everyone wanted to do well, and you always wanted to kind of outdo your neighboring team or club, and that started right from grassroots through the senior swimming. But I do think that because we were a nation that was kind of, we were always trying to aspire to be one of the bigger, stronger nations in the pool. So I think there was an awareness always that the only way to try and improve was if we kind of like shared resources, information, basically came together a little bit more. Whereas in Canada, I see a lot of good collaboration and a lot of real great coach kind of relationships within the provinces as well. So yeah, I think it's pretty healthy. The pool deck is a nice place to be for competitions, and although at national meets, there's probably half the coaches there I still don't know. It's definitely it's a friendly space to be in, and there's always someone. Honestly, every single time I go to a national level meet, I come away from that competition having had the chance to talk to a new coach. Whether we talked about swimming or something else, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. When we can have those moments, it's because the meeting keeps us busy, especially when you come to competition. It's different when you have 3 swimmers or when you have 13 or 20, or give you different opportunities. But there is always opportunities at night to on deck early morning or between session to talk a little bit and exchange. That's and I'm trying to bring up from every meet, and I like to observe as well. I like to watch coaches on deck. I learn a lot. I learn a lot from that, and Bill Sweetnam, one of the coaches who really was really insisting on the way you should act and the attitude that you should have on deck, because your attitude is reflecting as well on your athlete. And when your athlete can feel that you actually on the deck and you look pretty comfortable and confident and with no stress, I mean, it's good for them. And I think that that's something that I'm not really work on today anymore, but that in the past it really helped me to improve as well as a coach. And you know, it's a question as well of you know, being. I think there is a lot of coaches on deck, and to me, and I'm going to talk for me, when I go to a Canadian meeting, and you know, I'm very social. And I have to be able as well to not find too many distractions and stay focused. And I think that in the past years, that's something I really improved on, because you know, it's a business, right? And you want to be like, you want your athlete to be better, and this attitude is coming as well. It's part of the preparation that we talk a lot with the athletes, and that we do as well. And the way you behave and the way you act is very important. And of course, we are not perfect. We are going to make mistakes. And you know, it's fun because I really remember, like we were in that junior tour in Australia with the junior Canadian team. I think it was in 2013 or 2014, and Bill Sweetnam was there every day. Tom Rushton was there. You know, Mandy Bell as well. She's in England now, coaching Canadian coaches, was there as well. Janusz Kasmarek was there as well. Robert Garofalo from Ontario was there. I mean, we are a nice team, and Bill was there as well. And Ken McKinnon, Ken was leading the group, and every day between coaches and sessions, we had a session with Bill. It was very challenging. Wow. At the end of these 3 weeks, we had to watch. To go at the competition in Melbourne, the Victoria Championship, regional championship, and what was his name again? The missile, Magnussen was there. What's it? The Australian swimmer, the first one. I mean, the one who arrived. No, not Yuri the missile. What's his name? Oh la la. You know, the Aussie guy. The first guy was swimming 40. I think he went 47 low. He's not. I don't think he's Olympic champion. Is he? Not sure.
You're talking about 100 freestyler?
100 freestyler. Come on.
Australian. Chalmers.
No, right. 2013, 2014. And I know my 100 freestyle. I have it like right there.
Yes,
anyway,
this is your specialty.
It could be like I was going to. I have Magnussen in my. I have Magnussen. I don't know.
Magnussen, right? Yeah.
Yes. Magnussen in my. Okay, yes. So it was there, and we're looking at this coach, and Bill spent a lot of time looking at the way we were coaching. We had all a little group of 4, 5, 6 swimmers. And he was looking at the way he was preparing his swimmer to this 100 free in the morning and in the afternoon. And in detail, I would tell you it was perfect. He was there at the right time. He was there at the right time. You could feel that they were prepared. The guy understood what he had to do. When he had free time, he had free time. And you could see as well that he was organized his time to speak exactly with, like, to accord the moment of time he needed to have to put with Magnussen, but he didn't forget the other one. He was organized as well with the other one. So to me, I was like, and I don't know if coaches are, and you will tell me if you are like this, but now more and more, and since this experience, when I go into meet, my swimmers are not getting all in the water at the same time. I want this organized, it's prepared. I want to be able to speak to everyone. I want to be able to see everyone. You know, I want to be able to give that speech that they need sometimes to every one of them. So it's very important. And the way he is organized and the way we're dealing with that, because this weekend I think he broke the world record, or he was very close from it on the 100 freestyle. And organization was perfect. But the day after, it was way different, way different. And Bill was there and was looking at it and was talking about it. And being at the Olympics for him, being there, he was talking about that kind of stuff and how it was so important to be that organized. And when I look at a guy like Ben Titley and the way he works on stuff like this, that's how I feel, and that's really what I like about him. He's an amazing coach. I would not say that, but the structure of it, the organization, he's bringing into his team and stuff that he organizes, and the way he leads his swimmers is very interesting on that aspect. And it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. It's a lot of work and a lot of organization, and you have to think about almost every little details and everything. The higher the level of performance is, the higher the level of details. Come to the process, and it's very become more and more important.
100%. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I remember Patrick, whenever I went to Gina, Patrick was really good at that, like planning basically an itinerary throughout an entire meet with the preparation and then the actual competition days, right down to the last minute. And that was something I kind of really took away. It does make a big difference whenever you feel like the preparation is done. And I think you're right. I was thinking about different competitions when you step onto the pool deck. Sometimes something happens, the bus doesn't show up, or this traffic is bad or whatever. But whenever you're there and you've done all the prep and you have time to go through the kind of tasks that you want to do before the swimmers compete, you, as a coach, you do exude that confidence at that point. And then you're kind of scrambling at other times, when you're trying to chase and catch up with different swimmers, and you can't find one of them, yeah, I think sometimes whenever swimmers that I coach, they go to what might be the biggest meet that they've ever been to before, they're so keen, and it's all, they got a great attitude, and it's they want to go to the pool, potentially 90 minutes earlier than they ever would normally go to the pool. So it's a fight almost to try and get them to relax and stay in the hotel until they can go to the pool, and then they have the same set time to go through their usual protocols.
Yeah, because you don't want to change everything. You don't want obviously to change everything.
They're just so excited. Yes.
I think that part of the preparation is very important, and you want to be. And I took that from Bill as well. And I was thinking then, there is level of improvement in your career, and you're going to improve as a coach in different level. And to me personally, the level where I improve the most is the preparation of the practices, the preparation of my activation, and trying to and everything in competition as well. And sometimes we take it for granted. You arrive in competition and you have done that meet 10,000 times, and you think it's going to be easy. You don't even think about it, and if you don't reflect on it after the meet, you can. Sometimes you have to be able to tell yourself that you have done a shitty job and achieve and adjust, and come back in the afternoon and change your attitude and try to be better, because it's very. I think it's important, and this is what I like about the job. It's never. There is no given. It's always a right balance that you have to keep, and if you don't do the job properly, you're going to decline without even seeing it yourself sometimes. But when you realize, sometimes it's too late. But that's something that I was very sensitive about when I started as a coach, the critics and stuff. But today, it's okay. And I have to. The way I don't know the way you want to be. You have to be able to take critics and autocritic yourself. It's very important. And to be able to improve. I wanted to talk to you about the COVID-19 situation. Right now, personally, where are you? What do you think about it? What impact how does it impact your life in Halifax? How stuff are done over there right now? If there is a lot of case or not? And then more about what's going on around the sports world and the difference, because we know we like soccer and stuff and UFC, and we're going to talk a little bit on the subject after. But what do you think about it? Like, what's your hot take, I would say?
Well, from a swimming point of view, I think that although it's been, pretty tragic for the swimmers, the team, the sport, the swimming community here in Nova Scotia, and then obviously all over Canada, all over the globe. I look on it and I think it's another case of there's adversity, and it's a chance to kind of step up and learn some more things. From the swimmers' point of view, they can learn a lot about what they can bring to their own program, how they can motivate themselves, why they swim. I think is a big one, because taking something away from someone really makes you then question why you were putting so much time into it. What did you get from it? Were you doing it for your own reasons, or were you doing it for maybe to, out of some sort of thought that you maybe owed it to do it because, you recognized how much maybe your siblings had put into it. Maybe it was something that had come from your parents' goals or your coaches. And I think this is a time where when people do come back to the pool, they're going to swim because they really want to swim. Which to me is something that's actually really exciting. It's definitely a case of hitting the reset button, but I like, and there's a lot of, obviously a lot of difficulties and a lot of challenges with the fact that we've had to be out of the water for so long. But I really like the fact that when we do get back in, there's going to be one hell of a desire, from everyone. And it's going to be right across the club. It's going to be from grassroots, those kids jumping in, splashing in the water for the first time in months, right through to the senior swimmers who just have reset themselves, and they are like, they've sharpened that focus, and they know that they have to, use that time really, really wisely, because we don't know what's going to happen again.
You have no idea what you are saying right now. Make me so happy. You have no idea. It's no, seriously, it's and we didn't talk about it. I'm really happy as well. Really happy as well, because that's what I'm trying to. The first 4 days was a disaster, I have to say. We were coming back from training camp. We're getting ready for Quebec Cup, then looking forward to go to trial 3 weeks after. And the first 4 days, I wasn't feeling well at all.
Right.
Then personally, I have a family around Europe and people who are sick. I have people from like really, really close who passed away and stuff like this from it. And make you realize that, hey, we have to calm down. What we are living is what we are doing in our life right now. Our profession doesn't become necessary, like we call it an essentiel here.
Yes.
and you realize that okay, it's not the priority anymore, But at the same time, the first stuff that I told to my swimmer was, how are we going to take advantage of it?
Right.
I'm very excited about that. How are you going to come out of it better? What are you going to do, like physically in the training? But it's not just about that. For us coaches, and to me personally, I had like 25 or 50 books that I had to read, and we didn't really have all the time to go through it. Some studies that you want to go through, some people that you want to call and exchange, and to me, it's like above the family and the time you spend with the kids, which is a blessing, because you realize that fuck, we don't do nothing. And now it's we have that chance.
Yes.
And I think it's obviously it's very, very sad, but on what happened in every country right now, all those disease and all those death and the tragedy and the work that the people working in the hospital environment are going through and stuff like this, it's very, very hard. My mom is like 68 years old, and she's living in Paris by herself, and it's not easy every day. And and the funny things about it, and we talk a lot, we call each other a lot, but since that, every day we talk. Every day we call each other. So that's it makes you. There is some positive out of it, and of course it's going to be hard. But as you say, they are going to come back. The ones who are going to stay and come back, they're gonna be there. They're gonna know why they love and doing it. And I think it's gonna be
Yes.
exciting. And of course, there is a lot of different challenge in the organization, in the set, in the way they're gonna run. They are going to run stuff. But it's I think it's a good, like you say, a good reset.
Yeah. And I always think coaching is basically problem solving. That's essentially what we're doing. And we're just trying to find different methods, solutions, outcomes, processes for particular individuals or groups. And this is just a case of where we're going to have to, as coaches, we're going to have to step up, work together a lot, and find solutions to this problem. And I've no doubt that will happen.
It's like I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work, and hopefully they're going to find a medical solution. And until they don't find it, we have to organize and try to come back to a little bit of training. I hope it's going to be soon. How on that aspect in Halifax, you have any news? You don't know when? What is the city is telling you? Do you have any news on your side? Because here in Quebec, in the situation is right now they are talking about opening the school in about 2 weeks. In some city out of Montreal, some are going to open soon. Or I'm pretty sure that some are open right now, and it's working okay. In the big city, it's a problem. They push the date back to the end of May. So what about Halifax? What's going there on that aspect?
Well, it was yesterday that there was an announcement made from the provincial government that schools wouldn't go back this year. So the next time kids go back into school is going to be September, hopefully.
Okay.
And I think that's, that was probably what everyone was kind of guessing would happen. But sometimes whenever these decisions are made, even though it might not be the answer that you're looking for, I think it's kind of good where people can just, accept, okay, so these are the guidelines. Well, let's see what we can do then, whether it's homeschooling and virtual schooling and everything else, and prioritize the things that they want their kids to kind of experience for the next couple of months. In terms of swimming, we're status quo. Every week there seems to be a little bit more optimism, and I've heard like some things are moving forward in Montreal, and I've got some coaching friends, in Alberta, BC, that are, and I know Saskatchewan are making pretty big moves to get back into the water as well. So I'm feeling optimistic, and I know it's going to be a kind of trickle process, and it might be the case that some provinces are kind of get back in, ahead of others. I was talking to a coach last night in BC, and he's looking at a introduction to the pool again in early June, which is fantastic. And that's a private facility and a different set of different situation that really works for them. Yes,
Brad? Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
Yep, it's Brad.
Yeah.
So we were joking. He said, but he's going to have the best team in the country next year because he's got the head start. So, but that's great actually, and it's pretty cool to see that some programs are able to kind of get things going again, and it's inspiration for the rest of us to see if we can figure some stuff out, and pretty exciting for the athletes as well. Can you imagine? You're sitting at home, you're working as well as you possibly can with your dry land work. You're connecting with your coaches. You're keeping up with your studies as best as possible, and then you hear that one of your rivals across the country is getting back into the training pool. I mean, that's going to give you some real edge there. So I think that's good. It's going to start that competitive spirit again amongst athletes. So that's what we need.
Yeah, it's good. It's always good to have that competitive edge growing up a little bit.
Yes.
I want to go on. I like to go on other topics, which is more swimming. And as I told you, I didn't really prepare that interview or this exchange that we're going to have. And I'd like to know more about your philosophy about swimming, about your training, the way you see things, and where you are going toward in your career, where you want to be in a few years and stuff like this. I'd like you to go through a little bit around through that with me and share that with us.
Mm-hmm. So it changes kind of quite often, I find. And, you know, if I'm ever in a situation where I'm having to kind of put it down on paper, write about it a little bit, or explain it to someone, I find that it kind of evolves, like, based on where I am. So, you know, way back when I was kind of studying level 3 coaching in Ireland, my philosophy then was about, oh goodness, it was basically coming from an assistant position and taking everything I possibly could. I wanted to be essentially a sponge, and then I wanted to be able to offer that support to my league coach, wherever that would be. So I wanted to be like an integral part of the system, and offer something that was specifically to the role of an assistant and not necessarily the head coach. So I wanted to kind of like become the best assistant that I could possibly be. And
I like that. I like that. You know what I usually say about my job, because I'm an assistant today
right,
since now 10 years. I'm the assistant of Claude Saint-Jean in Camo, and I want to be. I'm always trying to share that with every time I have the opportunity to talk with the coaching community or stuff in some formation or meeting we have, and I talk a little bit about my position. It's I really want to be the assistant coach I would love to have, and I would love to work with one day.
right.
And that's something that I have in mind. Of course, I'm not perfect. I know exactly where I have to adjust my work. Most of my focus is going to the pool, and
Yeah,
I have to improve a lot on the aspect around the pool and
right.
the administrative work and stuff like this. Sometimes I'm really on the edge. Sometimes I'm less on the edge. It's a it's a challenge. It's always a challenge for me, and
Yes.
but that's what I'm trying to be as an assistant.
No, I get that, and you're in a really in the like unique situation whereby you've got like so much experience. You've worked with like really top athletes. You've been to what, 2 Olympics yourself, like, but yet technically you're an assistant role. But I mean, I see your job as your club are fortunate to have 2 head coaches, you know, you and Claude. So
I don't know how he's gonna love it or not, but thank you.
But yeah, that's definitely a unique situation. But you've actually found a model that works for you and for Claude and for Camo, and that's like honest. The people who benefit from this are your swimmers, and that's cool. And I know because one of our swimmers, Gia Mensa, and her brother went out to Camo, joined you guys last
Yeah.
year.
Mm-hmm.
And she's come back, and I actually bumped into her grandparents the other day, and you know, she's having a great time, tells me great things about the club. She came back and she looked fantastic. Actually, she's swimming really, really well. She came in for a little bit of training a few months back. So yeah, that's a model that actually works really well for you.
And that's something that it's not perfect. We are trying to improve. Since this year, we have 2 new coaches in the team, and
right.
we decided to divide women and boys, or girls
Yeah.
and boys, into different groups, and that's working really, 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 really well so far. It's a hell of a job for those coaches. Like we say in French, chapeau.
Right.
Because it's because you have to coach and deal with different age group all afternoon. Like it's a lot of work and but they are well organized. And I think it was working really, really well. I was excited to see how the year was going to end, but we'll see how we're going to restart on that. But this structure and that stuff is always moving and trying to improve, and I think we have to improve because we want as well to help Quebec to bring more good athletes and come back to the level where we should be.
Yeah, well, that was actually going to be, I was going to throw a question in there for you at some point, and that was the question I was going to ask you about, because to my knowledge, I don't know, maybe there are other programs in Canada that have split it, girls, boys for training, but I don't know of any off the top of my head. I was going to ask, after 6-7 months, like, how do you evaluate what was going on? did you have any doubts 2 or 3 months in that you're doing the right thing, or
I've,
were you committed to just like going with it? And these are lots of questions, but are you going to keep on doing this potentially whenever we get back?
I really, really want to keep on doing that. I think that's, and we start that, so we have to go through at least 4 years of it to be able to say if it's working or if it's interesting or not.
Yeah.
But on a day-to-day basis, me personally, I started to do this when I talked to a coach a few years, Quebecois coach a few years ago about it, and he introduced that idea in my brain, and it always was there since. And when I start to do that in my practices, separate the boys and the girls in the set, like we do sometimes, or because sometimes you have two different starting time in your set, so you adapt and you find yourself with more boys or more girls. And I decided to go more boys, because my group was like always been very homogeneous, they could work together very well. But I decided boys and to do girls, and you could see the difference of acting, behave between them. The way the boys between boys, they are boys. The girls between girls, they can be girls as well, and it's very, very different. And I love to doing it. To do it. Sometimes it's not very easy, because sometimes I have 3 workout or 4 workout on the board, so I cannot do it. But when I'm going to one workout, I always try to I've done it less this year, or I would say the past 18 months, but I think that's something that, and I brought that to Claude at the beginning, and he saw it, and he saw the way it was working as well. And we didn't talk for it between I don't know, 2 years or 18 months, and we come back to it. It's okay, next year we do this, So I was very, very, very happy, and I'm excited about it. Very fun on that aspect, and that's something that I really, to me, it's another issue that we have. We train too much the boys like the girls, because in the maturity, the girls physiologically they are ahead. They're going to take more. They're going to go faster, earlier, and going to be a little bit bigger as well. And in the personality, they are very different as well. And I do think that the boys into that some get lost. If you can give a chance to both of them to develop, grow a little bit on their side, but differently, I think it's a winning situation. And what I would love to do, if it's possible one day, is to bring that to my group where I'm working now, and try to separate. But it's a lot of organization. There is a lot of idea. It's a challenge. We'll see in a few years, but. I think that's great. I'm very excited about it. I want to see how it's going to work, because I do think that in Quebec, you were asking, there is no other program doing it. I think Point Claire tried it 1 year.
Okay.
For some reason, it didn't work that well. I will have to ask the head coach about it more. But and in Canada, I don't think it's. I know in the NCAA in the US they do it a lot.
Yeah.
That's working for them,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I know that there's a couple of British programs that do it, and particularly one in Scotland that I think still do it, and very successful. Tell me about the reaction whenever you announced this was going to happen. Did you kind of, whenever you announced it to the club, what was the reaction from the swimmers? What was the reaction from the parents? Was there instant buy-in because you guys have been, successful at what you do for a long time, so you've already established a lot of trust? Or were there a lot of questions? Was there any kind of pushback?
There is never enough trust. Never enough. So we always have to show and explain and go through it. I think it went well, especially because it was well presented and well organized, the way we started. And we have 2 coaches leading that program. And again, they are doing a hell of a job doing that. And it's a hell of a job. And the way it was presented, we have a meeting at the beginning of the year where we usually do a meeting between group,
Right.
This time we did a meeting with all the coaches where I could present everyone. And after that first meeting, we had a meeting with different group in the same room, like in different places. And during that meeting, the 2 coaches, Marie and Dominic, explained how it was going to go and stuff. And it went really, really well. And I think so far everyone is happy. Of course, it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll always wish we have more space and more time to run stuff. And I do not think if Dominique and Marie have like more than 30 minutes in the afternoon to move to one practice to another, you know,
Right.
because they want to do so much, because they want to do so much and achieve so much stuff as well, not just on deck, in the water.
Yes.
There's stuff outside of the water where we are
Yes.
trying to work and improve a lot as well. So that's a challenge all the time, and we see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting case study.
We see, like you know, like I always like that quote from Bill. When was the last time you did something for the first time? That's a little bit what brought me to doing what I'm doing right now. You know,
Right.
so that's
right.
that's a little bit of a challenge. So I was talking more about your way of training, your way of coaching. What if I want to talk about Mark Touch? What would it be like? What is your philosophy about swimming?
Well, it used to be, I suppose, going back a few years, it was about really kind of, I always thought about an athlete with just this infinite amount of potential and trying to kind of like harness it and like squeeze everything out of it, like to get everything from the athlete, and keep that progression going, that improvement level going, you know, continuously, so everyone's on board, everyone's happy, the athlete is extremely happy with how things are going. I as the coach would be, you know, delighted about the process as well. Mom, dad, you know, they buy in completely, and that was, you know, in my mind, the best journey to get an athlete from point A to point B. I think, you know, having been doing it for a few years longer now, and now in my now being the head coach of Halifax, I look at swimmers and I try to spend a little bit of time to kind of analyze who they are, where they're at, you know, what kind of training inside the pool, outside the pool they've had to the point where I actually get to meet them. And then you got to try and evaluate, you know, what kind of makes them tick. What are the areas that they're really strong at? What do they do better than their teammates? How can I use that to their advantage? And how can I use those qualities to influence the person beside them who is really good at this and this, but not so good at maybe those other things? So I try to look at the individuals, identify their you know, pros and cons, the strengths and weaknesses. Then I try to think, well, how can this fit into an environment? Like, what is this swimmer bringing to the training environment? What is the person beside them bringing? What can this person bring? And the truth is, like, every single person can bring a lot, and it's just about sometimes helping them believe it. You know, a lot of the time, you know, I remember the teenage years, and I will say that confidence was not something that I jumped out of bed with every morning necessarily.
Okay.
You know, you got to try and either find a way that someone's going to help you, like, help instill that, or you can discover it for yourself by work ethic, and you can see it. It's like you can touch it, you can see the improvement. Our sport can be very defined by, you know, times, obviously, even though that's not what it's all about. So I think it's looking at individuals, placing them together, trying to harness, trying to build an environment that makes people want to do their best. You know, I don't want to be in a situation every single time in the pool deck where I've got to make sure that I'm the most committed person in that space. You know, actually, I just want to keep the flow going, and I want, like, the people to feed off each other, and I want people to kind of you know, find a level of effort or a level of focus or enjoyment that they didn't maybe think they had when they were walking onto the pool deck that day, but by the time they get out of the water, they've just realized something for themselves. I mean, I could tell a swimmer something all day long, and, you know, one swimmer might accept that and take it as fact and truth, and they will go home with that, and they'll come back the next day and they've bought in. The other swimmer with a different personality might not, and they might need a lot of convincing, and they might need convincing by a whole host of other people. and with lots of different messages, and maybe they have to take an extra 2-3 years to really to buy into that. So really, it's like, although I'm the coach on the pool deck, there's a lot of coaching going on, amongst the team, right? And that is like extremely powerful. And I think that can filter down from group to group, and that can really, a lot of the time coaches talk about building the culture. And, this being my first head coaching job, this is something that's on my mind, like weekly, daily sometimes. And I am still trying to figure out the way to have, if you like, a perfect formula, which doesn't exist. But as the athletes grow, and as you understand more about them, and as you get better yourself as a coach, I think that you find key things that are going to really instill a positive culture, a great work ethic. Swimmers who enjoy to be challenged, like using an anxious situation potentially to, really find something great about yourself. There's no greater feeling than when you go into a nerve-wracking situation, whether it's sport or whether it's something else, and you're dreading it, and you've been dreading it for a week or a month or whatever, and then you do it, you come out of it, and that feeling is just amazing. And if you can help a swimmer to have those sort of experiences multiple times, that's just what I think that's what makes them just love the sport as well, and teaches them a lot about, how they want to be outside the pool.
I would say now it's been like, it's your second year in this team, right? It's
yes.
Second year. You're
right.
going through your second year.
Yeah.
So, like, you must have now a better feel of everyone, and you must feel everything. And like, my last question on that topic would be, like, is it easy for you to find a way to just focus on coaching and put your energy there, and be able to be creative and as good as you can every day? Because I know that as a head coach, the challenge that Claude has all the time is to be able to balance that. And even if in Camo we are a really, really good organization, and I find like my job, I'm very, very privileged to be able to focus 90% of the time on the coaching aspect. So I don't have to deal with a lot of meeting and stuff. All of the stuff when I'm involved. But for you as a head coach, how do you deal with this?
It's a battle that I've never felt that I've been winning. So it's always it's a hell of a challenge. And as prepared as I am for any given week's day, session, practice, I can go home from that that period of work and then look back and think, wow, if I only had time to just focus on this and this and this, I could be so much better. And if I didn't have to compromise my time with doing these other things. However, I will say it's the other thing that really helped me get a wider insight into this sport, and it helped me get a wider insight into like my role, my job. So although the first year, like as a head coach, and I knew it was never going to be a walk in the park. I knew it was going to be really, really challenging. But we got someone joining us. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really tough, but yet really worthwhile. And actually, I like the fact that this job has so many different aspects to it. I love the fact that it's not just about going back and forth to the pool and working with the swimmers. Now, there's days whenever that is all you want to do, and for sure those are the best parts of the job. But I have to say, there's been a lot of pride and satisfaction in doing some of the other aspects, like the team, the organization work, the working with other members, working with the board, working with volunteers, being a manager of a team of coaches. Like, these are all things that I knew were going to be really, really tough, but I get a lot of satisfaction out of all those areas also.
And if there is one thing where you really, really improve, there is one thing where you really, really, really improve in the last year as a manager, what would it be?
How long have you got?
Oh.
I think that's a good one. I think what I'm trying to do is put something in place that really respects the community that we're in. And I mean that I'm trying to find the best possible structure, model, like environment that's workable with the expertise that we've got, with the resources, and with the individuals that we have in the pool and in the club. So I'm trying to find the right fit for today, but in a structure, in a model that has the ability to keep on evolving, so we can keep something, working through the club, something consistent, but it has the capacity to change as we need it. I obviously standing still is not effective, and during this COVID time, I'm thinking about a lot of things that I potentially want to bring in for next year that are kind of all up in the air still, with so many variables and so much uncertainty. But I'd like to have something, a very organized machine that has the ability to cope with adversity, for one. I mean, this is a really big reminder of that. And also just for what works today might not necessarily be the answer for, next year, the year after that, and so forth. So for me, it's about getting better at identifying that. I want to be able to see that more quickly. I want to be able to have solutions for that. I want to be able to use the resources that are available to make the most important decisions earliest.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good answer. And you are not prepared for it. So last question about swimming. If you have to give me one set, your set, the set you like the most, if you can give it to me, we always have that, that's and I personally, I don't have a favorite set. I would say I have a top 10 favorite set, but the first one to come to you, what would it be?
I really enjoy doing race pace work. I really enjoy doing middle distance race pace work. I have a lot of kind of debates in my head about this, whereby I like to keep things. I don't like to do a lot of repetition, for the sake of just doing something over and over, because yes, there's value in swimmers, seeing the improvement, and we will revisit sets and so forth at particular times. And for the most part, there'll be a decent gap in between, and I have to remind the swimmers, okay, so way back last month or the month before we did this, and these were the results. We're going to do it again today, and we're going to have another go at it. And that's fine. But I find that for me to be excited about content and sets, there has to be something fresh about it for me. I just don't get the buzz out of doing something over and over and over. It's kind of the way I am about life in general. I don't like to, go to the gym, do the same thing. I like to just mix it up completely. So I really don't know if I have a favorite set. And probably after this call, I'll be like, why didn't I say that set? I love that set.
That's fine. That's fine.
But I love doing race pace, because middle distance race pace, 200-meter race pace, because I think that swimmers can get very dialed into it very quickly. It's fast, it's exciting, but yet there's a big emphasis on doing things technically correct, and you have enough breaks in it and enough opportunities to give some really quick feedback. So it's not necessarily where they're doing big distance where you only get that little window opportunity to communicate with them once in a while. So I like that. There's a lot of engagement. It's exciting. It's fast. It's really hard work. And I think the swimmers, that's what I was talking about before. They can feel off the energy from each other. There's a little bit of coaching going on, even if they're not even speaking to each other about it, but they're learning off each other all the time. So I like those sets.
So
What
you
about
know,
you?
you know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ask you. To send me like the top 3 race plays you did, and I might
Okay.
post it below in the comment or somewhere in the description that
Okay.
some coaches could see. And it's a good it's a good very good answer. Actually, I will go through personally. It's one of my projects. Sometimes I will share a little bit more about my favorite set and why we are doing it. It's something that I'm going to do. So I'm going to not go on that topic right now. So I'm going to wait. Wait a little
You're gonna
bit.
keep that one for us. Okay.
But you know, as you say, it's what is great about it is what I love about my job is the creativity aspect of it. Every year I throw my book away. You know, I keep the numbers I need to keep, the volume number, the attendance number, what do we do when I need to quantify a little bit my training, I do it, and I keep those numbers. You know, it's very, very important. Of course, there is set and I have who really influenced me, and then I still do, especially some heart rate set that I love, you know, very, very long set, 3700, where you ask heart rates to be at this level on the first 12, and then bring it on the next 12, bring it up to the max, to the last 12 with one dive at the end. It's stuff set like this, but there is nothing new into it. Like those sets are not done especially for sprinter, I have to say, more mid-distance and distance sprinter. You can do it in IM as well, this kind of set. But otherwise, it's like you a little bit, you know, I'm trying to be as creative as I can. Sometimes it's very, very hard. That's a challenge in our job, to not trying to repeat too much, because you want to find the way to stimulate your athlete the right way. And those new sets sometimes can bring those, and we can find as a coach to be as well too comfortable as well in those sets. So it's very nice to get out of your comfort zone. And it's very nice to exchange with other coaches. I never try to exactly do the same stuff than what I see when I like it, because they bring, you know, I would share my practices with everyone. I don't care, because you cannot, I mean, some coaches are scared because they think they're going to take their idea or own them, or they're going to do better than you. Or I don't know what good reason it could be. But to me, if a coach just give you everything it does, it doesn't make you the same coach.
No.
What make you, what the personality, the way you teach it, the way you do it, the moment, the environment, all those stuff are so important.
Right.
I give it to you. That's 20%. Enjoy.
That's true. You know, 10
and the way,
coaches,
and just the way you coach the set.
Right. 10 coaches in 10 different pools with 10 different groups of swimmers. You know, or even the same group, if they moved around, it would be a very different experience for the swimmers each time.
All the time. So I want to go on the last, and we're going to go to the end, toward the end, and the last topics. Today there is a UFC fight tonight.
I'm excited.
We should have been today, like the fight that everyone was waiting, the Khabib fight against Ferguson.
Right. Yes.
I was excited for that one. I'm not scared. I think that Khabib is a hell of a fighter. I mean, they can bring whatever they want. This guy is something. But in sports, everything can happen. That's why we are all excited all the time. But
yes,
Khabib is a hell of an athlete. And you know what is good about it in that situation today? What I like, what the UFC done about it is give a little bit of distraction and give a little bit of action to everyone in that period where, and I know it's going to be different. I'm excited to see how they're going to manage it. I think in wrestling game, like live show, there is some running. We have seen it on TV. It's working. It was really, really weird at the beginning, but I think they learned from it. And the UFC, I think they're going to do something crazy tonight. But it's going to look good. I'm excited about it.
They know how to put on a show, and I think you're right. Like, so first of all, like as a population, we are craving some sort of sport to like get involved in and watch. And I know that MMA is not for everyone. And to be honest, I only got into it through when I came to Canada. It was through a friend, and I started. And before that, I was had no interest in it whatsoever, but I do follow it quite a lot. We're both soccer fans. Unfortunately, you're a Paris Saint-Germain fan, and that's you've made your choice, so that's okay. But I agree with you. What's happening with professional sport coming back onto our TV screens is amazing, and also the German soccer league, so the Bundesliga, I believe it starts in just over a week's time. So the whole closed door policies without the fans, yes, it is a surreal kind of atmosphere. I think actually Paris Saint-Germain they played a game without the crowd before
they're playing the second round of the Champions League game against Dortmund without the crowd, and I know it's hard, but I swear, as a fan, you know, I love my team. I watch the game without noise or not. And it was actually nice because you could hear the comments, you could hear the player, you could hear the coach who he was talking to, who was more on it. I mean, it was exciting. It was different. It's going to be different. Anyway, so
it's interesting what your senses pick up actually without all the noise, the white noise in the background with the fans. But so I think it's going to be interesting to see how sports cope with this. I mean, at one point before all the announcements were made, it was very early in this lockdown situation that, you know, there was talk about potentially trials going ahead, but without crowds. And I was thinking a lot about that, and swimmers were asking me a lot about it because we had a few swimmers going to trials, and they're very much, you know, rookies going there for first time experiences. Really, really excited about it. I've been talking about it for a year and a half already, saying, hey, this is a great experience. Like, I mean, the hair stand up the back of your neck. This is an electric atmosphere. You know, you're going to see the whole range of emotion. Athletes like exhausted and you know, upset, and their dreams have really come to, you know, a hard end, and others right beside them are jumping for joy, and they're running around and they're hugging everyone, and it's a theater, the trials pool deck. So then whenever the potential for the crowd to go away, if that was a possibility, then I spent a few days kind of talking to them about how that might be, you know, how it might be walking into a pool without a crowd, you know, then thinking to myself, okay, so what can I do to prep for that? You know, like, do I stage, you know, some kind of time trial event whereby I have officials there and they're looking formal, and we do things as official as possible, I suppose, but have no one there, make it really quiet, you know, turn the music off, and just to kind of get them into that kind of get them a little bit familiar with that scenario.
Good idea.
So I've no doubt that for professional sports, they're probably looking at many different things. Like maybe, for example, some stadiums, some atmosphere, they might blast pretend a manufactured atmosphere into the venue. You know, there could be like, you know, fake crowd noise, I guess. So, but it will be interesting to see how professional athletes perform whenever they can't feed off the crowd. You know, some people do it so well, some swimmers do it so well, and some will actually enjoy it. Some will like the fact that there isn't the pressure of 1,000 eyes on them, you know. So yeah, there's lots to actually, it's interesting. And I agree, watching soccer, you know, to hear these professionals communicate when they're doing the thing that they are elite at, that's something that, you know, you don't get to see very often.
Lots of friends made fun of me about this PSG situation, because actually for the first time since 4 years we were going through this round, and the team looks good, everyone looks weak around, it's not that strong, and boom, you know. So but as I said, it's not the most important thing, but if it's a bit for the PSG fan, it's a bit frustrating. But they're talking about probably running it in August. I don't know. And the NBA is coming back June apparently. So there is more and more news about it. So that's a good sign. So thank you, Mark. It was a pleasure to have you. We spent, I don't know, I was ready for 40 minutes or 45. I think we exceed the time, but that's fine. I will probably invite you to talk about other stuff at some point when the channel will grow, and I hope it will. And I wish you all the best during that period, and I hope that we will stay in touch more and more, and try to develop more that friendship that we have already. And it was a blessing to have you today. I let you finish and end the session.
100%, Craig. Thank you so much. It's I by the way, I knew this was never going to be 40 minutes. I thought it might be like 4 hours and 40 minutes. I packed a lunch here. But no, I love catching up with you. You're always fun to talk to. You got a ton of knowledge, and you make it interesting. So I appreciate the chance to like do this. It's something a little bit different for me as well, and that's great. It's something that's outside my comfort zone, and I've enjoyed it. So thanks very much. Belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with your next one, and hopefully we get the chance to be on pool deck again sometime soon.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks a lot.